You'll see from my dashboard, now I'm going to go to Menu and My Dashboard. This is where I'm going to see all of the classrooms for which I am a teacher. I just created the chemistry, dentist chemistry, so we're actually going to walk through that one. When I click on the classroom name, I expand the classroom. Over on the far right-hand side, I can edit the classroom. That's typically done to either enroll or withdraw students. We've got reports, viewing data. We represent the data in a number of different ways in different reports. Most of this discussion will center around the activities or the summary page of the gradebook that we look at when we manage and monitor progress. The reports display that gradebook data in a number of different ways. But first, I want to launch the product. I want you to show what an Apex course looks like, what I mean by that unit lesson activity or ULA structure. As a teacher, you have the ability to preview the content simply by selecting on the course name underneath the classroom name. Here's the structure of the units. The last unit is always the end of course test, and students can access those either by this gray circle or by the picture. One thing to point out is that if you do select mastery-based learning, students will see items grayed out for which they've not yet achieved mastery. We're going to launch into Unit 1. At the unit level, we have an overview. What are the objectives that we're going to do in Unit 1? If we select a prescriptive course, then the students will see a pretest for that particular unit. And then from Unit 1, we go into Lesson 1. Inside Lesson 1, just like we do at the unit level, we have the objectives or the overview for that particular lesson. Study is where we want students to live. This is the on-screen instruction. In this particular lesson, we have 17 pages that the students will view. Students simply start that, and we'll walk through each of the 17 pages. I want to point out that there are supports that are built in throughout the Apex content. On the first page of study is going to be a study guide. Students can click on that, and it will open up a printable document that will, what I call guided note-taking. It's not a practice test, but if students complete the study guide, it will prepare them for the assessments that follow. As teacher, you have the ability to see the answers or suggested answers, rubrics for different activities. I want to point out also in the upper right-hand corner, and this is particularly for the students, we have an icon for text-to-speech that will read the content or the text of the page. We also have an icon for a translation tool so that the Apex content can be translated into 30 different languages. So those are opt-in tools for the students to use. Going back outside of the study guide, back into the content, here I go through page 1, and you'll see, like say in orange on the right-hand side, different support tools that are available for the students. And on almost every page inside of Apex, there's some way for the students to engage or interact with the content. In bold letters, we've got key terms, because we know that sometimes vocabulary is a hurdle for students as they work through courses. We have maybe short little videos. In math, we'll have some practice problems. There may be some true and false or some matching types of activities. There are some interactive types of graphs, some questions, simple questions based on the content. So different ways that the students can engage with the content on almost every page. That's the study portion. And like I said, that's where we want the students to live. That's our on-screen content. Next, the students would go to see a quiz. This is a high school course, so it's 10 questions. The first page is the directions, and then the second page launches the quiz. As I mentioned, for students, we will randomize the question order so that it's highly unlikely that a student or even a group of students would see an identical quiz. As a teacher, you have the ability to preview the quiz and even to see the answers. In this particular one, then we launch into another study and another quiz. In one of the activities, we have different types of activities. We've got a journal here in this chemistry course. It's a writing assignment associated with the nature of science. Once the student finishes lesson 1, they'll go to lesson 2. Again, study, quiz. This one includes a practice activity, which is like graded homework. There is a combination of computer-scored and teacher-scored activities inside of Apex, and we'll look at those a little bit more when we launch into the Gradebook and look at managing and monitoring progress. The idea right now is for you to see how the unit lesson activity structure is set. As soon as lesson 2 is done, student goes to lesson 3. This time we introduce lab and discussion board activities. Then I can go to lesson 4. And lesson 4 is the last lesson inside of unit 1. We've got an overview, we've got a review. CST is computer scored test, TST is teacher scored test. And you'll decide which one or both of those the students should take. Unit 1 is completed, and then the student would launch into Unit 2. So that is the structure, of Apex courses. The next, and all of the courses are set up with that unit lesson activity structure. The activities vary, the number of pages of study vary, but everything is set up with that ULA. I want to launch into the Gradebook now for managing or monitoring progress. And again, as a teacher, I'm on menu and my dashboard, and I'm looking at the classroom called Dennis Chemistry, and I'm going to click on the Gradebook. When we launch the Gradebook, the first thing that we start with is the summary page of the Gradebook. Clearly, I just created this classroom, so we don't have any student performance yet, but this will show the percentages, how the student is doing throughout the course, units 1 through 6. One of the things that I'd like to point out first is that when inside the Gradebook, when you click on the student's name, we bring up what we call an activity scores report. I think of this as a traditional Gradebook that will become populated as the students complete the work. And it's important to note that the students also can retrieve their Gradebook from their dashboard as well. Besides recording student progress at each individual unit, we have some data in the middle section of that summary page. And as I said earlier, that most of the reports, or a number of the reports that we have, are a function of these kinds of reports. Overdue activities, you have the option as a teacher to set a pacing guide for students. Apex calls it due dates, and so the pacing guide, or the pace, will be set for the students so that they and you know where they are in terms of keeping on track. Days since last access is pretty straightforward. Unscheduled percent is a function of overdue activities if you set that. If I've got 10 activities due in a month, but I've only completed 5 of them, my unscheduled percent will be 50%. Quality of work is the average score that students have for the work that they've completed. In my previous example, if I've taken 5 assessments and I've scored an average of 90%, my quality of work will be 90%. Grade to date becomes a progress report. It's quality of work times unscheduled percent. So in my example, because I've set due dates, I've been on schedule 50% because I completed 5 out of 10 assignments. My quality of work is 90% as high. My grade to date then would be 45%. 90% times 50%. And this then is a progress report. How many points have I earned against how many points are available until now? The overall percent is a total number of points that I've earned versus total number of points available in the course.